Hello. Another day, another stream. How are you doing, Adrian?
I'm good. Hope you too.
Hello to our live viewers. Adrian and I just met because we just made it in time without doing any kind of pre-show prep. But I am prepped. I have an editor ready to go for some coding practice again, for those of you who are interested. Tell, don't ask, today's topic. Adrian? You recently started coding again. You mentioned to me, at least privately, that you started enjoying being
enjoying. So I never stopped coding. But,
fair. I like that distinction.
So I have a transition at the moment I'm going through, which is to do less strategic stuff and do more engineering stuff again. And I like it. It was a decision I made last year, somewhere in the middle of the year, when I just saw I tested several things out in the last 10 to 15 years. And I think I know what I want to do in the next 5 years. And doing, let's say, more hands-on again, doing more fellowships, consulting, and mentoring again is what suits me a little bit more. So I have 15 years of CTO experience now, and I think I will, let's say, put the head of CTO away a little bit and more of the engineering type of person. This is what I think I do. It is.
Are you aiming for an even smaller org? Are you more team focused?
Yeah, probably. So I found out that helping others is what I where I really
Hmm.
can scale. You know, it's like I solved so many of my own problems in the past, the problems of my teams, so many business problems that I found out that helping others is actually what suits me more at the moment. So this is basically a change in my life. What's going on, and of
Yeah.
course I will. We'll be doing the CTO fellowships where we work a lot with other CTOs in small businesses and startups, helping
Hmm.
them overcoming the challenges we had in the past. And yeah, probably I will stay so on this level a lot, but that doesn't mean that I'm focusing on my org in that way. So my org is transforming into something which is more suited to help others than
Hmm.
actually building software itself, especially not agencies type of software. I don't like agency work anymore.
Yeah.
And we're doing a lot of SaaS stuff, but this is still working. And I don't see a big need there for being CTO anymore. And
Hmm.
going into the direction of helping other CTOs seems to make more sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you asked. I don't even know what the topic is today, so I just joined. So yeah,
You will be leaving in an hour, right? Because you have a hard stop today.
family appointment today.
Family appointment. I
But
know those.
I wanted to be here because I wasn't last Thursday. I wasn't with you, and apologies for that because several people DM'd me because of that. So sometimes it may happen that I don't have time because still we
Yeah.
have
No, I
you know
do. I
yeah.
do. I do put your face on the thumbnail by default, so I am implicitly creating an expectation that you'll be there. Um, I don't think I mentioned your absence explicitly enough last time, so that's my fault.
Just
Sorry about
just
that.
just to say that happens from time to time, and yeah. Um, Happy to be here. I like that we have on Thursday those let's say engineering topics or
Hmm.
more hands-on engineering topics, and
Yeah, a
Wednesday we
little bit.
talk a
I think.
little bit more about the cultural and higher level aspects. Well, yesterday was a mix of that, and it
Yeah.
probably will be next week as well.
Hmm.
So let's take a look. So we have three new people guests in the pipeline. Very interesting guests, and
Okay.
one is recurrently just said we just talked on
Is it? Is
just
it?
chatted. Brian is one of them, Brian
Hmm.
Finster, and the others
I was just about
we
to
will
ask if his
announce.
name rhymes with Brian Binster, but, but I think
Brian
we can
Binster
announce.
is a
Yeah.
code word. Brian Binster,
Brian
he
Binster.
will be there.
Someone whose
Um,
name rhymes with Brian Binster.
oh, will be very interesting. So always happy to have new special guests. Probably
Yeah, it's also.
starting maybe this week, this month, but definitely in February. And there are four more recordings and clips coming out in the next 2 weeks
Yeah.
from the ones we haven't published so far.
Yeah.
So I think I have my aftermath of 2023 is done this weekend. So I'm a little bit overloaded at the
Yeah,
moment,
like
but
we
this
had,
will.
we had like a huge influx of interest for guests just before Christmas, and then we wrapped up the streams on Christmas, and then we had no post production basically going. So we still
Yeah,
owe a little bit of wrap up and clips with Gregor Oystershek, Casey,
Nicolas
and
Oquette,
Nicholas,
Jonathan
and I
Hall.
think and with Jonathan. Yeah, Jonathan's stream I already recapped because I really enjoyed that. I text recapped it. Um, but I think it's worth sort of catching
It is worth to
catching up
provide a
on
real
them.
recording because
Yeah, yeah,
those events on LinkedIn, the replays are often not working.
yeah.
I don't know why they are pretty buggy.
I don't know. I
And
don't know either.
yeah,
It's why I also stream to YouTube. So hello to you if you're on YouTube. And you have now started streaming on X.
yeah.
I don't know. Is it Chinese? Is it X?
No,
I don't
it's
know.
X.
Is it
And
X?
it is funny because I always like this game XCOM so much. And when you go on the
Oh yeah, the
site is
logo is similar.
x.com.
The logo is very similar.
Yeah, I think it's XCOM. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure.
it's a tactical strategy game. Um,
It's great.
and just to give our audience a little bit of an announcement, we are looking to test the waters on Twitch as well. I think in the
Coming next week,
coding,
Wednesday.
yeah,
Yep.
in the coding category, I think there is a category for coding. So I think the Primogen is successfully streaming there. Theo is successfully streaming there. CJ from Zen Coding is successfully streaming there. He's also one of the first streamers that I followed on Twitch. And Jitter Ted, if you know Ted Young
Yeah.
he has a TDD card game. So there are a lot of streamers right now and Pirate Gaming, Pirate Software. Thor has a very good stream on Twitch. So shout out to all those successful streamers already. Awesome content, and I think active. Because what I think we can slowly, gradually go into is that you're now doing the boot camps.
Yeah.
And I figured it would be helpful to perhaps organically transition those meetings into a stream, or to maybe have them closed so that we're on stage and that
so
they
you're talking about the dojo thing.
Sorry, the dojo.
Yeah,
the dojo.
Okay.
Yeah, because I figured maybe we can do it that way, that the people who are on the dojo, they get to talk to us while we're streaming, so that we sort of have a private conversation with them, and we're sort of basically just showing them examples while also streaming, and then we open it up to a wider audience, to have this sort of classroom that can be observed, and then also the live stream, which is then sort of open floor.
Yeah, maybe a thing for Circle SO as well.
Yeah, maybe a thing for Circle. Yeah, because I think that might be fun. Because I see a lot of streamers, they just stream how they work. So I think, because right now our streams are mostly sort of a mix between conversation, podcast, and presentation. And I think it will be interesting to show people a little bit more about how we work when we work. Even if it's just, maybe us muted or our guests muted, or for privacy concerns, it's just...
How we loop around, right?
We loop around, yeah.
I use the N word, not the L word, but yes. No, all good. All good.
Grant, hello. We have Jose with us and Ricardo. Our regulars are back.
Jose, hello. LinkedIn user, hi. Grant Mill.
That has to be Thomas. LinkedIn user.
LinkedIn user is always Thomas. Thomas or Marcel? Marcel is as well, I think, LinkedIn user. So
thank you. So thank you for reaching out. I did speak to Thomas this week. We had a little bit of a one-on-one chat, just to gather some feedback on the stream, and primarily on Thomas's work and what he's been up to recently. Really interesting.
He joins the dojo as well. He wants to join.
Okay, so today's topic, not waffle on for too long. Today's topic is tell, don't ask. Now, I've seen this. First of all, what do you think this means in the context of object-oriented programming? I want your opinion on this in chat. Are you practicing it? Do you know about it? The first results on Google are Martin Fowler and pragmatic programming. This is a term originating from the 1999 book Pragmatic Programming from Andy Hunt. Thomas Hunt? Andy Hunt? I need to cheat. Because it is quite an old concept, and it's quite a helpful one. From Andrew Hunt and David Thomas. There we go. I do mix up those names a little. Sorry. Because it's a very helpful concept. And why did I decide to have a stream about this today? It's because when I coach anything refactoring related, TDD related, design related, even architecture related, this is a low-hanging fruit, like a really easy skill to learn, that everybody who's applying it is delighted by. So it just has really organic and really fun developer ergonomics. I don't know why this isn't more popular, but it is what it is.
Then make a little pitch about. Make a little pitch. What is the topic really about? In a nutshell, what are we going to talk about today?
In a nutshell, we're looking at the anti-patterns with object-oriented programming, so you can separate out real object-oriented programming from writing code in an object-oriented language. And tell, don't ask, for me, is the best litmus test and refactoring skill to have to transition from one to the other. That's today's topic. That's the pitch. Thank you. So, what do you
Do you want to have a guest today? Sorry, a hot join today in the
hot
show?
join?
A hot
Sure.
join on the audience, like Grant
Yeah,
Mill,
let's do a hot join. Let's do a
example.
hot
I
join.
see him here. So he said afternoon,
Yeah.
so he can't hide anymore. There he is.
Hello, Grant.
Maybe.
Hello, Anjana.
Maybe.
Ivan, we see a lot of people in chat. So Ivan is not syncing with StreamYard, so I need to figure out why that's happening.
I think this
It's
is
been a year now, right?
some privacy setting stuff. I think it's only with
But
LinkedIn.
it seems so random. It seems so random. We have Kuitesa, Jose, Subashini. And
We have one or two guys from Twitter, probably Angular developer.
Oh, okay, interesting. Oh my god, that was gold. That was gold yesterday. So, tell, don't ask very simply. Would you know how to explain it, Adrian? Do you know? Do you use it? Do you code object oriented? What's happening with your sort of mind when you're crafting code?
We were programming object orientated most of the time in Bits in Motion back then when we created what we just described yesterday, those JavaScript frameworks with classes. Not the JS classes, but they're pretty similar, those prototype classes back then.
Yeah, they are.
They are pretty similar. I think they followed the same idea, which was older than the actual implementation, as you described yesterday.
Yeah.
I went away a little bit, to be honest, to the idea of functional. So today I'm in the functional camp. So if we would see that as camps, I'm a functional person. I prefer that personally, but this is personal preference. So both are actually working. I see an overall shift, or maybe it's a perception, that more and more people going back to the functional idea.
Yeah.
Than actually having, maybe it's because of the front end shift towards this idea, because when you take a look at Angular, you have a little bit more object orientation, while
A little bit
more, while you have in React basically no object orientation anymore.
Anymore, yeah, because they transition out of the hierarchy-based framework use. But frameworks are an exception. I think frameworks are a bad starting point to learn object orientation.
Yeah, I know, for example, that my colleagues are working, so especially on the backend side, they are heavily in OOP. Heavily invested. Jonathan, for example, is heavily there invested. I myself, so I'm happy to hear in this stream to learn today, to be honest, because I have the feeling that it's a little bit grayish, everything. My entire, let's say, everything I remember from the past, I'm not really sure how it was, and I don't know, it's a little bit faded in my head. So I'm not really sure if I can answer this question this time to the satisfaction of everyone, to be honest. What would be your take? So you are working more with let's say entire teams on the code level area, so you have way more touch points on that topics. What would be your idea if you need to answer the question to yourself for the audience? But of course, audience is very important on this topic as well. Please report us a little bit about what you think and give us a little bit guidance how we can structure the show, because there is no, let's say, curriculum we really work down here. It is we're waiting for your input to go on with that. But now to Dennis, what are you thinking when you think about this topic?
So to me, tell, don't ask starts with the design phase, right? So it touches on what you mentioned with functional programming. So Grant is not joining us. I don't know. Is that a challenge? Is that a challenge? Is that he upping the stakes to join us, or is that a no?
That's just an announcement how he would look like. This is
okay,
this is how I understand
it. sorry for making you uncomfortable, putting you on the spot. But you're very welcome to join if you have any questions. So for the longest time, I started coding. I started learning object-oriented programming in a way where people told me, "Oh yeah, it's that Java thing where you have public static main and then you go out from there and then you have to create a new class." Right? Because a lot of people think I think we can just go over to the code editor and I will just put it on the screen. Uh, Last time was a bit easier because last time I could have the code editor on the screen and you weren't here.
Ah, great.
Now I
Then shall I
yeah now
leave?
I need no I now I need to put you somewhere. Uh, and I think I can close the tests. I can close the tests and do it like this. How's the font size, by the way? We don't need this, right? I think we can just do this. And we can focus
You
on.
can create custom layouts here in StreamYard for that if you like. Those
No,
you
I'm
can.
just, I'm just trying to get the screen to match the video ratio on. Because I noticed last time it was widescreen. I wasn't aware that this was happening, so now I'm sort of trying to make it a little bit simpler. So for the longest time, I'm gonna type in TypeScript if that's okay with everyone, because that's what I've been used to. So
Great.
the longest time, how people learn object-oriented programming was they say, okay, this is a car, you know, and then the stupid example that I hate is it's this a car has an engine. I'm just gonna use a string here. A car has an engine, right? And then, by the way, I'm doing constructor promotion, so this is assigning the engine to the class. I have my linter set up perfect. And then you say, this is I don't know, this is my new car, right? This is it. Now the thing is, I can't do anything with this. So the design part that I see often happening, that really starts the problem, is that when people then write code with the car, with this Audi thing, they start writing the code here, not in there. Right? So there's a car, and I'm like, okay,
In
now
where?
what? Here,
Sorry.
here. Where's the comment? So
Not
the
here,
code
but in
starts.
where? So you just.
Oh, sorry. So they start typing here, not here,
Okay. Okay. Good.
right? So if we're in OOP, then the code goes here, right? This is where the code goes. But usually what I see people do is, no, they put the code here and they say, okay, I need to calculate something. Calculate, I don't know, velocity, or calculate price, let's say, right? And they say, right? And now I can't do anything with this, because if I say price is 0, there's nothing from the car that I can get to help me calculate the price. What is the obvious answer? Get engine, right? This is where I see most 99% of engineers go. They say, oh yeah, if car get engine is this, then price times 2. Right?
Basically mixed patterns. I saw this very
Mixed
early on
patterns,
in the
exactly.
in the early days when PHP classes came out. People were tending,
Oh,
or many
I
examples were like this because people
PHP
were
5, yes.
yeah, people thought, oh, I can use classes now. Let's instance them
Yes.
and use them in
Yes.
my procedural code, and then exactly
Exactly.
that happened. Yeah.
Exactly. And you see this in React, back in the old React, when you had, React was doing the create component, the extends React to dot component or React
Yeah.
dot, right? So fragment. And it was exactly this. There was a thing that had to follow some kind of, or, it can be simpler. I can say I have a user entity that might be extending, entity of some kind, or using reflection to get to the entity. And this is a DTO from the database. And then it has, public name, public email, right? And then they have it private, and they have getters, setters, etc. Right? Now the issue is, if you go to any kind of ORM, Hibernate, Doctrine, they will all tell you this has to be private. For the model to make any kind of sense, other than just copying data from the database schema to the in-memory space for no reason, it has to be private, and it has to stay private. So no getters. People ask me, Dennis, but then how can I do stuff with this? The point is, you can't. you have to create a class that declares the usage scenario of the behavior, not the data, right? So it doesn't make sense to call this a bag. This is the bag that's on the user table in the database, and then the bag that has the user goes into the user class. That's silly, because what I want to know is that I want to say, oh, when I will send an email, I will hydrate this email object from the user table, right? So I want to send an intro email. Okay, but now I can load something from the user table or load something from the query something from the database, from the schema, and I can fill it up with the data I need. So that's the sort of idea, so that I don't have to expose this. If I have to
Just
create
go
a
ahead
bag,
and make the example visible.
so the idea is, okay, well, I don't have an ORM here, so this example might be a bit contrived. But the obvious thing here to do would be, people would go, I have that user, it's coming from the database. I'll create a constructor. I'll create a constructor. I'll have the name and the email. Isn't it great what we can do with IntelliJ? I mean, they're not sponsoring the stream or anything, but it's just such a natural programming environment. But what I see usually people do is this, right? This is what usually happens. Like, I will give the email to the user. Now, what's the problem here? See, in order for me to say, let's say, send, this is a void function with a side effect where I will do something with the email. What's my problem again? I'm asking, right? So today's stream is called Tell, Don't Ask, right? So the idea isn't so much tell, don't ask being tell is a void function. This would be the naive interpretation, right? Tell means go do something with a void function, and ask is return something, right? This is what people think CQRS is, but it's not, right? Where you have commands and queries, right? So it's not just about CQRS, commands versus queries. Your tell can be a non-void function. That's the usual, let's say, the first few questions that I usually receive from an audience that sort of struggles with this idea for the first time. And we have a few questions. I actually have a comment. I think it's from Thomas. You see this often when they start coding in JavaScript. In Go, Java, C#, you will not see something like this as an advanced developer, I think. Yeah, I think JavaScript is very peculiar about this because it mixes the functional and class-based paradigm. So I think it was referring to this. But honestly,
well, the language doesn't mix it. So let's say the culture around JavaScript is derived from a loosely typed functional based.
Java has this double namespacing problem where you can't export a function unless it's in a class, and you can't make a class public unless it's in a public package. Right? So it comes with this like weird, it's like this, package com.
Yeah, exactly.
Architect journey stream example, and then I have a class, and then I have a function, and even if I'm just exporting calculate price, for example, like in TypeScript you could just do this. In JavaScript I would be forced to put it in a class and make it static, and I hate that practice. So I think the Java way of making packages like that is, I think, a huge disservice to any kind of student or any kind of junior engineer who is starting off their learning journey in tech by practicing C++ or Java, because they have exactly the same problem. Now, C++ follows a different kind of paradigm, but I think Java is sort of the easier on the eyes language. And I think most people nowadays start with Python that has gimmicks of its own, sadly. I just want to wrap up this example.
Yeah.
So the naive interpretation is, tell, void function, ask, return something. That's not what this is really about, right? Tell, don't ask. Tell, don't ask means if I expand it a bit, it's tell me what you want to do, or rather, tell me what you want me to do, rather than asking me for my data. Right? So how do we translate this to the car example? Right? Car, calculate price. Rather than asking me for my data, which is the engine, tell me what you want to do. Tell me what you want me to do. Right? So what is the point here? I have a function. Function has a state dependency. This function cannot operate unless it has a car. It's not nullable, right? So it's not optional, which is an obvious concern. Obviously, this has more to do with numbers, right? So if I look at the types that it's communicating with, so it has an input type of car. It doesn't seem to have any side effects. It's a function, and it has an output type of number. Now, does this function have more to do with numbers? Does this function more to do with functions? Or does this function more to do with cars? Right? So it has more to do with cars. So if it has more to do with cars, well, it might make more sense to put it here. Right? Put it here. And if calculate price is here, then I don't need the car. And if I don't have the car, I can put the car here. Now, if I'm inside the car, I also don't need a getter. And if I don't need a getter, then my information doesn't have to be public. Right? So that's the idea here. Now, you will notice that this only makes sense if I have a function that has a monotonic sort of structure, right? So if it has, if it's something that I could put into an array.map, and I could say calculate price, in order for this to make sense, calculate price would only have to have one parameter. Right? So if it's a natural function, not necessarily a pure function, just a function that in sort of in functional programming style only had one parameter, or it was already curried or partially applied with only one parameter for the sake of being mapped somehow, or for the sake of being reduced somehow, or flat mapped somehow, right? So you see this a lot with React components, where you might have a huge complex structure that at some point will have to be simplified down to a parameter to a function with a single parameter, so that you can run a reducer, or you run a mapper, or run a filter function of some kind. This becomes a lot more complicated when you have an email example, and you say, I want to do send email. And you say, well, I need the destination user, right? I need the destination user. And I need the user, let's say I'm sending a friend request, and I have the user, the destination user, and a inviter user, and I have an email template. Right? Let's say I have these types. Now this becomes more, where would you put this function? Adrian. Audience can also
First of all, I'm concerned with so many props in a row, but this is another thing.
That is actually the best place to start. I agree. That is actually the solution. Intuitively, that was correct. Did you know why?
I don't get the question. What do you mean?
Let's continue. You said you were concerned with the amount of props.
Yeah. I personally like what you want to have is a function or a method should have a specific purpose, not a multi-purpose thing. So principle of least astonishment and stuff like that. So you have one thing, a function should be honest, which means that for example best functions of course have no properties, but sometimes you need them. So you should have one main property, which is mandatory to have. And then you have options, and those options, especially in JavaScript, it's always good to have an options object because it's extensible. But those options are only for, let's say, options for the actual first property or function itself. They should not have side effects which are not expected, and which is first of all good for the, let's say, for the function to be honest. And the other thing is for let's say, if you reuse that function quite often and you need to extend it on some point, it becomes a mess if you need to have the second one nulled or even undefined. That's quite just simply ugly. It feels like cold smell for me, and this is what I don't like. So personally, I prefer to have 0 to 2 properties per function.
Okay, good.
Never more.
I put 3 there on purpose just to break this, because I also follow the same rule, and I put 3 here on purpose just to get the gears rolling. We have a question from Grant.
Yeah.
Actually, a comment from Grant. In object-oriented programming, objects are designed to manage their own state and behavior. The tell don't ask principle suggests that you should not ask an object for its state and then make decisions based on this information, which is asking. Exactly. Instead, you should tell the object what you want it to do and let the object itself handle the behavior based on its internal state. That's exactly it. So another, this is a great. I think this is the most concise way of presenting it, but it can remain very philosophical unless you really learn how to address the hard problems here. Because this, what I just wrote here, this is very imperative, right? So I am telling something to send an email. You see how I'm not addressing my query anywhere, right? So this thing will be forced to maybe.
This is without any context. This is one of those problems. So you are not in a context. So for example, if you send a mail for let's say a registration process of a website, then it's a different email than having my password forget function sending me a mail as well. So of course you can have some form of library where you have a send mail helper function. This is a typical helper function right now. But in OOP, you would dedicate this function to actually the actual object. So you could reuse a low-level sender function inside a object again, but not as a standalone function in your actual procedural controller code. This is how I would see it. Yeah,
I like that. No, but you have a lot of context in your mind of why that makes sense. Would you help me break it down and sort of put it on the screen, what you just described? Because I think that really highlights the principle very well. Could we start with context? Right. Yeah. So you said we might have some kind of sender. I could just declare it here. Let's say the sender is the primitive that will have some kind of sender functionality. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would you say that the sender needs to know about the users and the emails and the templates, etc.? Like, is that our
I'm not really sure where you are at the moment. So we are in a function right now. So I'm a little bit what you see is what you get at the moment. So this is a standalone. This is a standalone function. We are not in a class right now, right?
Not in a class.
Okay.
Agreed. Yes.
Then.
So the exercise is. Yeah. This thing that I did here with calculate price. This was easy because it had one parameter, and the parameter it was consuming was the natural destination for where it should go. So we are now exploring.
When we have a standalone function, then we need to pass everything to the standalone function. And the only thing we have maybe, and this is ugly to do, is some form of process or environment variables we can basically use as a higher order thing. And this is what I really don't like. This is
for example,
very detached in this case.
A sender email, right? So I could have this like this in a global scope. Right? Yeah, it will be public. Or module scope, Go love it. Go programmers love this because you might have a module scope, and you can then actually not breach encapsulation and just have a higher order object. Which is your module. As
long as you stay in the same module, same file, same component, it's okay. If you stay in the same application and you have those, that's ugly.
Yeah.
Because then it will become hard to prevent it will become pretty error prone, let's say, hard to maintain, and hopefully your IDE see all those problems. But yes, so let's say first of all, okay, we have this one. So can you please repeat the goal? So I don't really get what we shall do now. This is for me a standard helper function. Shall we just populate this function? Or what do you mean?
Yes, I want us to populate this function, and I want us to repeat this exercise where we moved it to a natural object where
Okay.
then this object no longer needed to
Yeah, but then
share its state.
let's start with the context and with the registration process. So
Okay, registration process. So context is I am sending a registration confirmation email.
okay, shall
Oh
we
no,
leave it as
actually
a
no,
function or shall we create a
actually
class now? We can
we're
use
starting with a
functions as
function.
well.
We're starting with a function, and we're moving it into a class.
Okay, now I got
Problem is
what
we
you
don't
want to
have the
do.
class.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, it's
So the
late
problem is
already.
we don't have the class that
Okay.
it naturally belongs to. That's
Yeah,
the and I'm sorry. This is a send friend request email.
Okay.
Let's say we're doing a social network thing, or maybe just you know, your project management software, and I want to be your friend. Whatever.
So we have the destination, we have the inviter. So
And an email.
this is another thing in between. What I like is if you have some form of order in your code, I like that more. I don't know if it's the same for you. It's just for the mental overhead, especially when I get tired in the evening. I would like to have the inviter before the destination.
I like that. So you would want to have
Yeah.
it in semantic order, the way
As
the
logically
function
as possible, right? From
very
the
good.
order
That's
standpoint.
very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
It doesn't make sense to have those mixed.
Yes.
This is just reduces the mental overhead
Very
you
good.
need to have as a
This is
human.
amazing.
So the email template is provided. We have those three things. We have the sender, which is probably some kind of technical class, which I don't know exactly. What is a sender for you? Again.
We have a comment on this. Somebody mentions I like to have it like mail service send mail.
Okay.
I think we can do that. Let's follow. Let's say mail sender. Wait, is it mail service? Mail service send. So that would be our usage scenario for where we want to take this at the end. Right? We will give this something. That's where we're headed. So, where do we go next from here?
So first of all, we need to have some form of template from somewhere. So we just suggest we have one. I wouldn't do it inside here now. I just would say we import something, because if you create a template inside a function, that's really ugly. I wouldn't do that.
The template can be as simple as friend request template can be as simple as hello.
Yeah.
I want to be your friend.
But in reality, we should have some proper templating engine like Puck or something like that, or even from SendGrid, those templates imported as a API function, something like that. Okay, so we have that one.
Wait, let me make it a function.
Oh, exactly. So we have the template. The next
this
thing
is the template.
And the next,
happy?
Yeah. I'm happy about that. So. Shall we want to have some guards, or shall we skip guards today, assuming that we have those things all day long? So normally we should have some checks now, some error management, some schema checks. Is the user complete? Does it have an email? Is the email properly formed? But I think this is not really the point today, right? So maybe we just assume we would have those as bailouts, which means if they don't pass, we need to process some error management and provide the user some form of.
Where would you have that?
Normally, in functional, I start to have that in the beginning of the function to make sure that the rest of the function.
It sounds like a
run.
precondition to calling this function. Would you have it before calling the function or within?
No,
the
inside
inside the function. Okay, it's a very good intuition.
Yeah,
so
because for reusability, it's better to have that there, because otherwise, on one occasion you have that, on another one you would expect that, but it's not there because another person wrote it with another context and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So you should have some form of guard which bails out into a false state, so it doesn't send and it throws an error, or whatever error strategy you have, but at least the user should get a message like a toast on the screen. Something ran wrong, like LinkedIn is doing all day long, those red messages.
Yes.
I get as a content creator.
Let's do that. What would be our meaningful guard? Let's do one.
Is actually, so you are in TypeScript, so you assume that
Yes.
user is there, but we don't know if user. So this is one of those caveats of TypeScript. You expect that it is there, so assume that the user is coming from
Yeah.
an
So
API, and we haven't
exactly. So
checked
do you
the
want
API.
it? Yeah. If it's an API is, let's say, directly calling this function, I might
Yeah.
make it unknown, and I would have to validate it, right? So I can't use the user until I know what it is. But let's say this is
If you use things like Yap, for example, you could leave it as there. You could say
Yeah,
it's
or
user
Zod
defined,
or
so it's not
something
falsely,
similar. Yeah.
and then is the schema check done. But then you would have a asynchronous function, and
Yeah. So I can let's say I can do this.
Yeah.
If the user inviter is missing, or if the user destination is missing, I say throw bad arguments. Okay, we have a naive guard.
I think that is enough for this, because this is not the topic for today.
This is
to
not
do
the topic.
proper. Yeah,
It is.
Yeah.
It will naturally show something very important, but which is why I wanted to have one. But it'll help us move a little bit forward. It'll help us move forward, and I will create the mail service just so that we can have it. And I'm assuming it will receive something.
So we know our input parameters are validated; they are existed. So in reality, we would have like a more detailed schema checks. Everything is working. So we can go on with the actual execution of the function, of the main purpose of the function, which would be to fill the template now, because we know that U1 and U2 is provided. So we should create a const with a let's say process template.
Okay. So that would be the message. That would be the body.
The body, right?
The body. Okay. The body is friend request template, user inviter, user destination.
No, vice versa. Here,
nice.
I would say friend request template U1 and U2 is wrong. We should go ahead with the same to give a little bit more context and explanation. Hello U1 is hello destination, hello invitee.
Very good.
And this to be clear, because when you debug it and you would only see the template, you don't know exactly what it is.
Hello invitee and inviter. Good. So that's naming first. Okay. But I still have the same problem, right? I now have a type problem here. I have a user, and I have users here.
Yeah, you need to type the user, then need to have probably some kind of name, full name, or a method.
How do I get that? How do I get that?
Yeah, we need to define user now somewhere.
The user is defined. It has a name and an email.
Ah, sorry, this is this class. Okay, never mind.
But it's private. But it's private, right? So we're trying to avoid.
So we need to have a function. So first of all, what we could have is. Yeah, that's already the problem. So
that's the problem, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So if we would do it in a problematic state, we would need to have a method which asks, for example, get name, for example, get full name, which
I think. Oh, you can't see my pop-up menu. Sorry.
No problem.
I will generate a getter. Boom, done. What do I need else? So on one of the users, I also need their email, right? Because I need the destination email. So I also need to expose the email. Right click, generate email. This is generated code. I'm using my IDE. Shout out to IntelliJ for making amazing IDEs. So what's next here?
Exactly. Okay. So we have the user destination. So we need to ask for that now. No. Sorry. We need to create a method to get that. No, we have a getter.
Yeah, we have a getter. Yeah, we have a property getter.
Sorry, This is so then you basically get name then.
Yeah, this is, I need the destination name, I need the user name, right? And I need, I'm assuming I'm sending the body to the user destination email, right?
Exactly. So we have not asked yet if the email is really valid. So we should have at least a regular expression in the guarding that this is a valid email address. So this is the reason why I like tools like Yap, because they help you very well.
Yeah, I don't want to go into that level of detail right now, because I think.
Okay. Mail service send. Okay, it's done. Then we need to have some form of response. So mail service, I don't know exactly, but it probably will get you something at least like a Boolean or an object with the results.
Okay.
with a success code, message, error
I like
messages,
that.
but successful. Success. Let's assume we have a boolean there, right?
Hmm.
Exactly. Exactly. So we have a success, and now we need to handle something. So just to have so we need to do something. So we need to check success. If success
Hmm.
true, then we should give a toast to the user that
Okay. So
everything is
if
done.
this is sent, yeah. If sent, then what?
Check toast with what is it? Send friend request. Just a confirmation that everything was working.
Okay. So is there what? Do we send it to some bus? Do we generate a new event of some kind?
I would use some kind of toast class, so a message user message class, which creates a
Okay.
user message. This is all you need in this moment.
Okay. So I would say toaster info, right? Let's say info,
Hmm.
then the message string. And I would say like this. I would say if sent toaster info message invite sent.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Invite
if
sent.
not,
Right.
we say toaster error. Uh, Wouldn't send email. Please contact support. Please try again.
Hmm.
Which is a
So
terrible error message, but you get the idea.
yeah, and the point is, if we use it as a standalone function, then this
Hmm.
function should not really be void, because if you use this function in another context, you need to have this response sent
Hmm.
returned as well. So at
Yes.
least this should be a Boolean return.
Okay. I completely agree with you. And maybe the toaster can then be outside as well to the person who has actually requested this, because they might have more context about how the
Yeah.
toaster is
This,
styled. So
if
maybe
there
this
should be a
doesn't belong
toaster,
here.
yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe you're right. This was not
yeah. So maybe
not
this belongs together, but not inside here. Maybe this
in
should
the
be a
context
result
above, right then.
of this sent or in the context above. Okay, we agree on that. But just for the sake of moving forward with the example, I think we can wrap up this sort of idea here. How are you on time, by the way? You mentioned you gotta go at. Is it you got 10 more minutes?
8 minutes.
Okay. So now I just want to move this to a traditional getter so that those of if we have viewers who are not familiar with the prop getter style, I just want to make it explicit that we did a function call here, because it wasn't clear from the example from just the way that it reads.
Okay,
Um,
but this
so
is basic JavaScript. It should be
it's
understood.
I mean it's quite modern JavaScript, I would say. And
Sure.
the user scenario might have been confusing.
Hmm.
So we have a problem here. I had to use getters, right? So I have now created something
And you
that the
asked.
user doesn't know about. It's not encapsulated in any kind of context. It is functional in the sense that this might be okay enough to worry about. Now, the issue is there's a mail service in here that is static. This is going to be incredibly difficult to test, right? So if I want to create a test for this is going to be very much impractical, quite impractical, right? Because what do I care about here? Let's say you want to test this function. What do I care about?
The inputs, the output, and
Exactly.
you don't know. Of course, you only know if it was successful or not. You don't know the things in between. So you have an entire different class inside there with a method. So
Yes.
you don't get what happens inside the other class. So it might
Exactly.
the test might fail, but not because of the actual called function, because of it's an astonishment. And since we want to follow the principle of least astonishment, we should avoid those circumstances. And it is a side effect. This
Yes.
send of an email is a side effect. It's not part
Yes.
of the function. It is part. It
And
is
do we
another function
exactly?
called.
And we don't care about it. Like we know that the mail service works. We don't care what it does. So we don't want the last thing we want to do is write a test that can log into my Gmail and call this function in a test setting, and I have to log into Gmail and do two-factor authentication and check if I received the email. Because that's silly. That's creating a very expensive, convoluted test just to make sure that some kind of sending functionality works outside of the boundary of my code, right? So the mail service is something that I don't care about in this context. I care about this function. It doesn't belong anywhere. It has state that can impact how it works, but it doesn't seem to belong anywhere. So in purely object-oriented programming, I would not, so purely from this example that's on the screen, I would just leave this here. This is a very good functional approach. It might not be declarative. It has very much sort of that imperative nuance to it, where you say do this and do that and throw this and return this and go here, go there, right? So it's very imperative. It's not traditional functional programming, but it is using a function. It's not using any needless objects other than the one that are actually very poorly used, right? So this object would be considered anemic because it has no behavior. You can't tell this user to do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how might we change
well, you can tell the user to send a request to another user. So
That's
this is
That's it.
that's the behavior we would expect when basically telling the class something to do instead of asking about the name and stuff like that.
Exactly. But how do we do that? Let me give you an example. If I move this, and I say friend request email, and I move it from a function and move it into the class, what happens? I can replace one of the users with this. The inviter.
The inviter, right.
The inviter. So the inviter will be this. Right? So, and I also don't need to guard it, because at least the inviter, I know that the inviter is a user.
That's true.
So I don't need the inviter in the function anymore. So now I have two things. The mail service is still bothering me for the same reasons as it does earlier. This is still not very.
This is
very
something.
Much not
This is a form of coupling you can't prevent, actually.
Exactly. This is coupling cancer. I'm just gonna mark it as coupling cancer. Right?
There are other approaches, for example, where you can use some kind of message queues, and you say the function is done when you've put it into a queue. The job of the function.
So the sending of the email could be the return value of the function. But then I have to have.
Then you have no. Yeah, you have a little bit more complexity, but better clarity.
Well, that's very good.
But now
let's make this compile first. So if I say the inviter get name, so I can just say this name. Did it underscore? That's
name,
the code generator. Yes. So I can use my name here directly.
Yeah.
The problem is this friendly class of the destination, that's still public. Like it still needs to have a setter. And their email that I'm sending to, it still needs to have a getter. So I didn't really get rid of the getters.
Yeah, you could turn it around. Instead of a receive friend request from another class, and basically could turn it around and make a receiver instead of a sender class, and then you would basically turn it around. That would be a possible solution, maybe. Yeah.
But it wouldn't solve. So either solution leaves the other one hanging. So it doesn't fully address the problem. Now,
well, it does, because you would tell the one user to ask another user, while the one user knows his name and can pass his name without asking about that. Because this is not an ask. So the ask, let's say, as a problem is only there when you ask a class in another context about it, but not inside a class. You can use your properties inside a class freely in OOP. Which means
no, so that's not the problem. The problem that the friends don't see each other is not a problem. The problem is that JavaScript and many object-oriented languages that do not have these kinds of friendly concepts. I think Objective-C is the only one that has this. So I can't make this protected or private in a way that a user could look into another user's private properties.
You don't
but not
need to
make the property public.
But you don't need to. In this case, I have just mentioned.
How would you structure it from this perspective?
Now, create a method receive
Mm-hmm.
receive friend request,
Okay.
and you have a receiver type user. No, type. Yeah, actually, this is then in an abstraction. That you need a name and
Yes.
the
Yes.
things,
Yes. Yes.
but you don't. It's not really an asking thing because the other one, the other let's say the user class itself will tell to do that with its own so its own private properties. So it's
Yes.
sending and telling to do something with their own properties, and the other class is just receiving it, not asking
Mm-hmm.
about the properties, which is
Mm-hmm.
tell.ask.
Yes. But can you finish the code example with me? Or do
Yes,
you need to
so
go?
you need to have a receiver. Um, receiver,
I,
and this is type. Let's do name and email. This is simple, an
okay.
object name and email.
Like this. An object.
An
You want me
object.
to create a new class?
No, just an interface. I think an interface is enough.
Okay. Okay. And then we have.
Name string, right, and email string,
Yeah.
both necessary. Exactly. This is the receiver, and this is the first you get in this new method you need to create, or you use this
And this
one.
is
This is okay
this
as
is
well.
the receiver.
Right, the receiver, and then we don't need to have ourselves. We need to have. You don't need to actually. No, we don't need to have a template because the template should be part of the function itself.
Mm-hmm. So the
Or
template should know. So this should live inside the
Yeah,
function. Hmm?
probably
Okay. We inlined the template.
because there's no variability actually, so it's always this
Agreed.
one. So it's not necessary to make a
I
dependency.
mean,
out of that.
it is having more and more responsibilities now. So even though we encapsulate,
But you
increase
can't decouple
encapsulation,
this responsibility from that.
you can, but that's the
Does
part
it
of the
mean?
exercise. But it's a too big step right now.
Yeah.
So how do you continue with this? Now I'm checking, is the
The
receiver.
receiver existing, exactly.
Yeah.
Then we have a body still. We have the sender without the queuing part. It's okay like that. So we have it sent.
Yeah.
But the receiver is the name, exactly.
Mhm.
So what have you? So send friend request. No, it's receive friend request.
So
Email.
this is the send when I'm
this
doing
is
it from the sender. Because I have this name for the sender, and then the receiver receives the object, right? So I'm sending a friend request to the receiver, right? So send friend request email, and then the receiver is the.
As far as this should be called receive, because you tell the other user to receive, but you need to have a method for this, and that was intended to be this method. So in my example, so for example, if you want to send a friend request, you should then call the others user.receive and put your own receiver inside yourself inside the receiver.
Double dispatch. I see. I like that. Okay, so you would have this is the sender, like this. And what's happening here?
No, still, this one up there in line 37 is the receiver.
Okay.
This down there is the sender.
Which one's the sender?
You need to create a sender now.
Okay.
So because in the real context where you instance this user class, you want to send a friend request. This is an imperative way, but you want to do this by telling and not asking. So that is okay. Just continue with what you just did in down there. Create a function sender. Send. Mail.
Yeah, send.
Send friend request.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the only thing you need to do is have an instance of the other user and call the method receive email and put yourself inside there.
Okay. So we're doing double dispatch. You're doing this. So
you need to create the object instead of this. And
this would be my email credentials, like this. or greeting.
You could write it literally inside there as well, just an object with two members or properties.
Very good. Very good. Okay, I could
There's
do...
no need to duplicate this in any way.
Okay, but again, we are breaching encapsulation. I am copying my information somewhere in exactly the same format as it appears in my object. Oh, sorry. I need this. Right? Did we fix the problem or make it more complicated?
No, the other class still don't ask about the things. It does get it. We push it to the other class. So this already a huge difference for me, because we still don't expose publicly the stuff of our current class. We have it still private, but we pass it
So if I
only if
understand
necessary.
correctly, if I understand correctly, I can remove these getters and the
Yeah.
code will still work.
Exactly.
Very good. Very good. Okay.
Yeah. But I have to go.
Now I hope our audience picked up on that detail, because this was actually a very good exercise. It's not what I had planned, but I'm glad that we actually managed to do an exercise. God damn it! I'm glad that we managed to do a exercise in this where I'm not controlling a prepared example. So this was completely ad lib. So thank you, Adrian, for doing
It
this
is
together.
you can probably find 10 other solutions for that or more. It's
Of
no
course,
problem.
there isn't one solution that would trump all, right? So the point here is that I got to solve this problem without exposing the user's properties and state through getters and setters. Now the thing is, this might still be considered a breach of encapsulation, but there is a level of decoupling here where I can say, even if I have to rename this name to maybe name and surname later on, I can still generate an object like this, and there's a level of inversion here that doesn't couple me directly to the properties.
The main idea of encapsulation is to not be able to reach data from outside inside some context.
So I can rename, so I can restructure it.
But
yes.
But on still, you need a way to communicate, which can be a asynchronous way via a queue. So this is what you have in message queuing and microservices. This is basically the pattern.
On the screen.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and the other thing is to send data out of your isolation, which is okay. You need to do this on some point.
Yeah, a copy of your data.
Right, but it would be wrong to be able to pull the data out of the encapsulation.
Yes.
So this is how I would put it to a
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So just to be clear, I think the overall idea is to be clear about what are we actually talking about. And I basically never heard of tell don't ask before, so I was a little bit confused. But I always thought it was what we just discussed is logic. So I never thought too much about that.
It's very unintuitive unless you've been formally trained in doing so, right? So a lot of engineers would have stopped here and really got stuck on these getters and setters, and then maybe pushed in an entity for an ORM to this, and then that is where then the pain of testing such a system would come from, where you accidentally couple the convenience would accidentally couple you to things that you might not want to be coupled to, and then if you're not testing first, even if you are testing first, you might not even know at this point. Once you get it working, you might not know how to write test for it. Now, I will continue on this idea of how we can now separate this further to make it more easily testable. But I think you have to go, Adrian.
Yeah, I have to go. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you very much for being on the show, and I wish you a great next hour with Dennis together. Next week, we have Tailwind versus CSS on Wednesday. So stay tuned. It will be with an editor as well, so we will do a little bit more code in the next weeks to come.
Nice.
Yeah, let's do this. And we will use AI as well. AI and I. So how,
I think we should have more AI on the screen. I'm not a huge Copilot fan. Usually I end up correcting.
I have two AIs at the moment in my IDE, and they break my linter regularly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a little bit annoying. But
I just hate the stutter.
But I feel naked when I don't have Copilot with me, and I will explain next week why that is. Okay, so goodbye, everyone. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye bye.
Ciao, Adrian. Bye bye. Okay.